Every yard, every hit, every second. It's earned out here. This game demands more than just skill. It demands fuel. The right fuel. Because out here, it's not just about how hard you work. It's about how long you keep going. When the game gets real, drink Bottle Still.
Welcome in.
Oh boy!
I hope you are ready. I hope your hibernation is over. The warm weather is here, which means spring camps, closer to football, and the OUA schedule release. Connor O'Neill, Wade Zanketta here to bring you the new 2025 Ontario University Athletics football schedule. Connor?
Oh man. Little early in the year to be seeing us, man, but I am super excited to be doing this in March, to be talking OUA football in March. You said it. We're talking about the schedule release for the 2025 OUA football season, and we're going to dive into this whole darn thing. But Wade, off the top, early thoughts. What do you like? There's one team we're going to talk about it, but they got to run a gauntlet off the bat.
Overall, pretty balanced schedule. You get a lot of high-intensity games late in the year. Early in the year, you have some good storylines. Connor, let's dive into week one, though. It is time to press start on the game of this season. If you've been following OUA news, McMaster quarterback Keegan Hall transferring to the York Lions. Of course, Dexter Janke and co have been continuing to build through transfers from the CJFL and from other U Sports and NCAA programs. This time, York gets a week one game, and it is hosting Keegan Hall's former squad, the McMaster Marauders. Exciting times in the York region, Connor. What are your first thoughts when you see this game?
What a matchup. What a treat. Those are my first thoughts. We have Keegan Hall, who was one of the most electric passers in the OUA last year, shocks everybody by entering the transfer portal, or transfer portal, air quotes
grad
there.
transfer.
Grad transfer portal. And now he's the quarterback of the York Lions. Saying, what do we get? We get a week one matchup between Keegan Hall and his former team, the McMaster Marauders. And like we've talked about, on the OUA show, like we've talked about on the CFP show, York's done a lot of things that we really like. We think they're really trending in the right direction, and I'm really excited for this week one kickoff, August 23rd. The rest of the games this week: Toronto at Carleton, Ottawa at Waterloo, Laurier at Guelph. That's a big one that we're looking forward to as well. Western at Queens. Unfortunately, while the rest of the OUA is having fun kicking off on the 23rd, the Windsor Lancers get that beautiful first week bye. So they're going to be nice and rested as they get their unofficial week one in week two.
Quick note here. Last year, we saw Laurier Guelph come down to the wire. Queens Western, always a good time. This time it's in Richardson. So last time it was there, Savon Magne Jones towards the end of the game. Sorry, CFRC radio broadcasters, but had to bring up that memory.
All-time call.
On to week two, Connor. It is Labor Day, and no, not the Josh Brolin movie, which we have so lovely put on the graphic. Your idea, your preference. Guelph at Western is the headlining match this week. Bar none, I think, is the most anticipated matchup. And if you're looking at Guelph's schedule already, we're 2 weeks in, and they have Yates Cup champion and Yates Cup finalist. So the Guelph Griffins hot out of the gate to start. Other games this week: York at Ottawa, Queens at Mac, Windsor at Laurier, and Waterloo at Toronto. Carleton getting that week two bye early in the season, but not quite early enough where you don't really know what you have. You'll get that first week of tape. So exciting for Guelph to have these high-end matchups early on in the year. Western as well, Queens and Guelph to start off their 2025 season.
Week one, week two, just absolute heaters out the gate, and it doesn't stop there as we go back to school in week three. We're talking about Guelph having a little bit of a tough schedule coming out the gate here, but how about our kind of early matchup to have our eyes on in this one? The Laurier Golden Hawks going to Queens to take on those Gales. And Laurier, through the first 3 weeks of the season, they got to play Guelph, they got to play Windsor, and now they're going to travel to Queens. That's 3 tough matchups for the defending Yates Cup champs. And if you want to be the best, you got to keep beating teams. You got to remain on top. Hey, Laurier's got to keep proving it in this one. I'm really looking forward to this Laurier Queens game. It is really fun when these two teams get together. Two of the most intelligent guys in the OUA. I know we have a lot of smart coaches in the OUA, but these are two of some of the deepest football minds I think we have in Coach Schneider and Coach Falls.
Quick notes on other games: Carleton at Waterloo, Toronto at York, the Red and Blue Bowl early on in the season. Your GG's heading to London to take on the Mustangs, and Guelph heading all the way down to the end of the 401 to face off against the Windsor Lancers. Mac on the bye. As we move into week 4, Connor, the Battle of Waterloo? Yeah, the Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon's not going to like this one, but we've got the Warriors heading to the Golden Hawks. Of course, we know how close these two teams are in terms of geography, in terms of students interacting with one another. Looking forward to that matchup. It's always a fun one. Other games: Western at Carleton, GG's at Griffins, Gales at Varsity Blues in an old 4 matchup, and Mac at Windsor. York gets a nice middle of the season bye this time around.
And 4 weeks into the season, Wade, this could be a new look Laurier team, as Taylor L. Gersman, number 13, is getting a lot of attention from south of the border, obviously up here north of the border in the professional leagues. So interesting to see what's going to be happening at Wilfrid Laurier University come the start of the 2025 football season as we move into the next week. Another tough matchup for these Golden Hawks as we are talking about them. It is the Golden Hawks heading to the nation's capital to take on my alma mater, the University of Ottawa GGs. And no, it's not the 21st night of September, but it is pretty darn close. And this game should be one to remember this season.
This week's got a lot of interesting actions. Of course, the one we're looking at with a bit closer of an eye, Elijah Barnes, Keegan Hall, that really high-end quarterback matchup between Carleton and York. Other games we're going to see, Connor: Queens at Waterloo, Guelph at Mac, Windsor at Toronto, and Western with a nice week 5 bye week.
And heading into the 6th week of the season, check your calendars, plug your Green Day in, wake me up, because September is coming to an end as the Guelph Griffins head to the nation's capital to take on the Carleton Ravens. This was an electric game last year in 2024. We expect much of the same. Guelph, a team that really last year impressed us. Carleton, a lot to like with Elijah Barnes and the way that Coach Corey has got his team rolling now as the head coach of those Ravens. In this week, it is the University of Ottawa GGs taking the bye, and we have the McMaster Marauders heading to Western to take on the Mustangs, York at Queens, Toronto at Laurier, and Waterloo traveling to Windsor to take on those Lancers.
All right, you've buried the lead long enough, Connor. Week 7, it is time for the game that you love the most, the Panda game. Overall, I think this is going to be a phenomenal week of OUA football. It's just fact that it's the Panda
hitter
week that we have to kind of give it its dues. So obviously you, Ottawa, Carleton will be playing each other. Queens at Guelph. This game was another really tight one last year. Western at Windsor is always a good bout. York and Waterloo has been a sneaky high-scoring game the last couple of seasons, and Mac at Toronto to round out that week. Laurier gets to watch all the fun from home as they're on the bye, but Pedro is up for grabs here as we kind of change things up and go into week 7.
Ottawa could be going for their fifth, I did not stutter, Panda victory in a row. It'll be a lot of fun to see if they can pull that off. Wade, moving into Turkey Day weekend, 4 games in this one, 3 teams on the bye: Toronto, Guelph, and Queens, getting to go home early and see some family, eat some turkey, and watch some football. In this one, a lot of 7 p.m. games, but the game that we want to talk about is taking place at 1 p.m. and that is the Windsor Lancers having a long road trip on a Thanksgiving weekend, having to head down to take on the GGs in the National Capital Region. Again, in this weekend, we have Western taking on York, Carleton taking on Laurier, and Waterloo Mac. And those are the 7 p.m. games on the 10th.
All right. I will bring us home then as we look at the final week of the OUA season, week number 9. Anyone for a Yates Cup rematch? Because we have not seen it this year. The schedule makers did us a favor and delayed it all the way till the end, where hopefully these two teams are duking it out again for who could potentially be taking home that coveted number 1 seed in the OUA. If things work out the way they have the last 2 years, this game is going to be extremely intense, a lot on the line, but other games around the province could be making way or solving some of the playoff seeding itself. Toronto at the University of Ottawa in our alma mater match, Carleton at McMaster, York at Guelph, and Windsor at Queens, all the way down in Kingston. Waterloo gets the end of the season bye this year, but a long season, a long stretch of games. Playoffs will, of course, come after this, as we'll have quarterfinals, semifinals, and the Yates Cup to close out our OUA season. So it should be an exciting one. Lots of high-flying games, a lot of very strong teams that are going to be built with a lot of veterans, rookies, transfers even, if we're looking at York's case. Excited for this OUA season, Connor, and cannot wait to get started.
Me too. And you mentioned the playoff run starting. And if you're like us and you like to mark those calendars, first round of the playoffs is going to take place Saturday, October 25th, 2025. The second round taking place November 1st of 2025. And the Yates Cup, the 117th Yates Cup, November 8th, 2025. Location TBD. I have a feeling where it might be again this year, but I'll keep that internal until we get to our preview show for the season. Until then, thank you for tuning in to Talk Some OUA Football with us in March. Let us know what games you are excited for, and keep your eyes out, because CFP, it is not OUA football season just yet, but there's a lot going on in the football season for us. So thank you again for listening. Enjoy the schedule release and get excited for OUA football.